Oh boy. Well folks, it's time for a moment of truth. I've got a little bit of a confession to make. Might as well make it because I got caught. And it's going to be out there anyway, so here it goes. About a week and a half ago, I went into a campsite and I can do it. I actually hooked up my trailer. Yes, I plugged it into a hookup. I was no longer boondocking. I was no longer off the grid. I was just another one of them. I don't know what I was thinking. It was the pressure. I was under pressure. I didn't have any power. Cloudy and rainy for so long. I needed power. Scotty, more power. But I couldn't get any more power. So yeah, I caved. I know you're going to think less of me. I know, well, that's kind of it for Slim. He's going to be buying a motorhome and sitting there watching TV all day. But if you can forgive me, I'll try to make my ways. And the first thing I'm going to do is improve the trailer so it's not going to happen again. And that's what this video is about. Having a full day of sunlight for your solar panels is a wonderful thing. But what if it isn't sunny, or if you're surrounded by the shade of trees? That can be a little bit more of a challenge. Well, as I've said in many of my other videos, 200 watts of power, the 200 watt panels, gets me by in most conditions in the West, because the West has a lot more sunlight. But in the East, or like now when I'm positioned away from the sun, it's a little bit more of a challenge, and that's why I don't have enough power to keep things going. Now, there's three basic concepts on improving your power. One is to add more solar panels. The other is to upgrade your controller. And the third one is to add batteries. But they all have their advantages and disadvantages. Well, let's first talk about batteries, as that's kind of the easier one. I use two batteries. One is a 12 volt AGM. Canadian geese. They're so noisy, those darn Canadians. Anyway, are you done? Thank you. Okay, I use an AGM, which is 12 volt, 100 amp hours. They're relatively expensive. I also have a 12 volt, I think it's about 75 amp hour deep cycle, which is really cheap. And there is the third option of lithium, which is horrendously expensive. Now, adding more batteries does not necessarily solve any problems. It does solve the problem of being able to store. However, it also means it takes more time to charge. And also, they weigh more, and especially the AGM and deep cycle, they can be 60, 75 pounds each. And when you're traveling light and you don't have a lot of space, that's a lot of weight. So I'm carrying around 120, 150 pounds. I can't carry any more and I don't have the space. So two batteries is as far as I'm gonna go. Although I would prefer two AGMs, and that's probably gonna happen in the future. Upgrading the controller, that's certainly an idea. I'm using a PWM. It's not very efficient. There are ones called MPPTs that are, but most of their efficiency is based on if you have half sunlight or full sunlight. Right now, my issue is I'm in complete shade. So I don't really think there's that much of an advantage to upgrading right now. I may change my opinion on that later. But it seems the only way to go is to add more solar panels. And that's what I'm going to do. So here's the frame that I mount my solar panels on. And I use flexible solar panels because of the weight. And the top one is a ETFE panel by Renogy. And the bottom is still an All Powers PET panel. Now, what I want to do is add auxiliary panels, and they're not going to be on this frame. They're going to be separate. And my first choice, and I think a lot of people have heard me say how much I really like the Renogy ETFE panels. They're great panels, they're durable, they're great for hot and cold, and they have a good warranty. However, I have to share something with you because I learned some things afterwards that I didn't know then. And one of them is the Renogy panel does not come with any means of attaching your panel to anything. It doesn't have the grommets or the eyelets that other solar panels do. They expect you to glue it on things, and I don't want to glue things onto anything permanently because chances are I'm going to change them. So what I had to do was drill holes and put screws in them. Now here's the catch, and I didn't find this out until a short time ago, that if you drill a hole in a Renogy panel, you have voided the warranty. And that sucks. So Renogy, put grommets on your panels so I don't void the warranty, or guess what? I'm not going to buy any more Renogy panels, because instead I went to Amazon and I bought another ETFE panel. It's Chinese, Potatohead. It's not a known company, but these are auxiliary panels. Yes, I say buy quality, but as far as auxiliary goes, if they work within the 30 days that you buy them, you're fine. If not, you can return them to Amazon, but they don't see the elements. They're only outside for a short period of time. So that's why I bought cheap Chinese panels for this particular purpose. And I think it's going to work. And you can see they actually have grommets in them. Well, a thunderstorm isn't the best time to work on your solar panels. But the reality is, in a thunderstorm, that's when I really need my solar panels. And they're really not doing anything right now. Not much of a charge. I want to add more panels right now, but it's just not the time. During a break in the weather, I took a chance and hooked up the 2 auxiliary panels I bought. My batteries were getting too low, and it was no sun in the forecast for several days. Although I usually take pride in my workmanship, this is very, very embarrassing. Don't take any notes, please. But what I've done is I've just put 2 new panels up with ropes on my vents. Here comes the rain. Oh, sorry, and my camera's in the rain. Anyway, you can see it's an embarrassment. We'll talk about it later. I don't know if you can tell from the video, but it is incredibly dark right now, and it's only about 2:30 in the afternoon. It's these ominous clouds of doom, thunderstorms, which I'm plagued with right now. That's one thing that I guess I should have appreciated more, is that in the West, it's usually dry and sunny. The more you go east, the less opportunity there is for pure sunlight. And it's not just because of the clouds, it's also because of all of the trees. Whoa, that was a big one. My biggest concern is that my campsite's turning into a little bit of a river. It's washing it away. I just hope it doesn't wash away the only road out of here. Better not rain too long. It was a muddy mess, but at least the roads were still passable. Well, now that I've got a little break in the storm, I can show you exactly what I did. These are the original panels that I have on my aluminum frame, the 200 watts that I've been using for the last few years. But on days where it's constantly cloudy and rainy and all that, 200 watts was just proving not to be enough. So what I did is I went on Amazon, I bought some really cheap ETFE panels, these two here, and I've just got them strung around my vents with rope, hanging down loosely, and then I've got connectors connecting everything to the other panels and to my control unit here. So that should give me a little bit more current, because that's the problem. On cloudy days, I might only get like 3/4 of an amp, and I use more than that per hour. So I needed a boost. Hopefully this will do it. This is nothing I'm very proud of. It's like, well, what can I do really quickly so I can carry on and have power? This is what I came up with. It's my Band-Aid solution. Believe me, in the next little while, I'll be improving on this. There are some controllers that show charging amps, but mine doesn't, so I hooked up my multimeter to compare the results. With only 2 panels, I had 0.9 amps. But with 4 panels, it increased to 1.7 amps. I don't think it was to anybody's surprise that when I doubled the amount of solar panels, I doubled the amount of current that I could generate. And that helps the battery charge up immensely. 2 amps is enough for my laptop and my refrigerator and the lights and the fans. And that's only worst case scenario when it's either cloudy or I'm always completely in the shade. When the sun comes out again, the batteries will charge up a lot faster. But it takes me to the time where things are a little bit dicey and I still have to use my laptop. And I'm happy with that. And yes, this will look better as I improve. I am on the road, so I'm limited to rope and duct tape and a few wires and what I can buy from Amazon. In the original experiment, I had 4 panels on one side hooked up in parallel to increase my amperage when it's cloudy. But what would happen if conditions change and all 4 panels were in direct sunlight? In my particular case, that would be a problem because my controller is only 20 amps. I typically get in direct sunlight about 6 amps per panel, so that would be over the range that is acceptable for this controller. Now I could change the controller, would be one solution, but if you have too many amps for your battery, you can put your battery in jeopardy. Most of them are rated, I think, about 20% of their capacity. So I don't really want too many amps. So my solution was simply move one of the panels, and I'll show you where it is. As you probably guessed it, it's just flopped onto the other side. Now ideally, I think I would like to have both panels on this side, the auxiliary panels, because that means under any condition, including direct sunlight, I'm never going to get full sunlight, because if the sun's that way, these are in the shade, or even if the sun's directly up, they're not pointed directly at the sun. So I'm pretty well guaranteed I'm never going to get over 20 amps. But unfortunately, I only had enough cord for one, and that is enough so that I can actually use it. You can see the sun's coming out now, and I have no danger of destroying my battery or my controller. So your next question should be, well, where do I store those auxiliary panels? I can't leave them on the roof, and I'm really limited for storage. Well, that's the easiest thing of all. I just sit on them because underneath my benches, got some foam, and there's the panel. It's up against the board so it doesn't get bent or anything like that. And all the cables are on that side, which I can't sit on anyway. I've got one here and I've got one over there. Perfect storage solution. And look, I'm working on my solar panel video. What a coincidence. Every once in a while, I get a comment from a viewer asking the very simple question, how much power do they need, how much solar panels do they need for their trailer? And I know there's some good videos out there that sort of run through the basics, but I see a lot of them are really just technobabble. It just leaves the viewer sort of scratching their head because they never really got the answer they need. And it's hard for me to do better, but I certainly want to try, because it all depends on what exactly you need to power and how much space you've got, how much you can afford, where you're camping. There's so many variables there. But I'd like to give you some real examples, because the reason that I was losing power is because I use a laptop when I'm editing, and sometimes I edit 8-10 hours a day, and I'm totally relying on whatever power I can produce from my solar panels. So it adds up. Plus I have the AlpaCool refrigerator, which is on constantly, especially when it's warm. I mean, today it's probably going to be 85-90 degrees. It all adds up. But I want to at least give you some examples of how much amperage I use on an hourly basis. That way you've got something. You've at least got an idea of what I need for my power consumption. Well, there we go. Another solar experiment which helped things. And I hope it's given you a little insight as to what you might need for your energy requirements, but it certainly improved mine. And if it inspires you, well, more power to you.